I'm going to introduce our panelists here. For our first session, we're going to have an open panel discussion talking about just the future of AI and how these experts are not only incorporating it into their own businesses, but how they're incorporating it into the landscape of their customers' businesses as well. And so just going to quickly introduce our panel team today, and then we'll get started with our questions. So first and foremost, we have Mr. Craig Barber. Craig is the Global Partner Enablement Manager at Asana and has become a great friend over the years. And I thought, what better place for Craig to be on September the 25th than here at Asanathon to share on everything that Asana is rolling out this year as it relates to Asana and AI. And so next we have Kelly Perry. Kelly is a project manager, consultant, and Asana services partner. So I'm really excited to hear from Kelly on how Kelly is using AI to reshape the landscape of both her business and her customers' business. And then we have Bastien. I'm not going to say his last name. He always razzes me because I can't say it for some reason. But Bastien is a really great friend of mine. He's an Asana partner, co-founder at I And if you're here, you likely already know who he is because he's all over the forum. He's all over LinkedIn. He's all over YouTube. And so we're really glad to have him back on the panel this year. Next, we have Matthias Blando. He is our solutions engineer here at Surface and an Asana expert. And so we'll be hearing perspectives from his side of the fence as well. And then last, most definitely not least, we have Terrence Bryant, who's an AI expert and the CEO of Innovara Solutions. And so welcome everyone, panelists, if you want to come on the stage, we will get going. Wonderful. There are all your faces. I love it. All right. So we're going to have an awesome discussion today, guys. And I wanted to kick this off with a question to Craig, but Craig will be joining us shortly. So first, I just want to start by asking, and really anyone can take this, right? We are all very familiar with AI and its various use cases from, simple use cases to more complex ones. I know, Terrence, you'll probably be able to speak to that, but I'd love to know just, as succinctly as you can, how has AI changed your life in the past 1 to 2 years, maybe even longer? How are you using it today, and what's the biggest impact you can say that AI has had on your day to day? Maybe we'll hand that one over to Kelly. Why don't you kick us off?
Sure. Hi, everybody. So excited to be here. Yeah, I feel like if I had to just pick one, I've been really cruising a lot on Asana's AI chat. That has been a huge resource to me. Everybody's really busy, and it helps to have just like a co-pilot in my platform to be able to get stuff done really quickly, recall information. Yeah, I think that that's the one that I've been most excited about right now, and definitely will go into a lot of detail with that today as well. So.
Terrence, what about you? How has AI changed? I know you could go many different ways with this answer, but let's keep it to like working within our tools day to day, how we're delivering for our customers, maybe, and how we're using it to advance our own business.
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
For me, I would say very succinctly, it allows my organization and the clients that I serve to fail faster. And with an iterative process and being able to discover where the holes are in our business, that's a huge, huge advantage, right? Oftentimes we set a plan and we try to be successful, and we find out, months, maybe even years later, that we had the wrong product or solution. So AI allows us to accelerate all things, but I really like to embrace the failures, because that's where we can make changes and pivot.
I love that. Yeah, fail faster. Bastian, I'm going to go to you here quickly because I know with your background, you're an engineer. Your company, is, I would say, definitely on the forefront of, technology advancements when it comes to integrating with Asana. And so I'd love to know a little bit about like what you guys are doing at and like how AI and on on and off the platform has changed your life?
Actually, yesterday I was in bed around 10 p.m. I had to wake up and go back to work because I had new ideas of how to use AI within the company. And that happens very often for us. Every time we sit down and think we have new ways to use AI within our Asana account. We are pretty lucky because we have access to the latest AI features, which are the ones built into the rules engine. We use it to save time, streamline processes, identify information that we couldn't find unless we spend a lot of time searching ourselves. It is changing the way we work, and we can't wait to be able to share all of that with the clients and help them use those features.
So yeah, I can't wait to see that either. And I know that at this point in time, Asana is beta testing a lot of new AI features. We've been fortunate enough to be within that beta program, and we're seeing where the tool is really going. And so I want to talk a bit more about even my use case, and then we'll get to some other questions here. But for me, I mean, I use AI every single day. Outside of the tool, I use Perplexity. That's really my go-to engine for doing research, for putting together briefs, ideas for new packages or services. But then what I'm really loving about where the tool is going and how we're using it inside of Asana is in the ability to summarize a lot of information really quickly. And not just at the task level, right? You have project summaries where if you are catching up really quickly or being brought into a project, you can get a real quick understanding of what's happening in that project or what has taken place to that point, right? Really quickly. Something that I do is I subscribe to the portfolio summary of all of our client projects. And so every week I get a little notification that says, hey, your client's project portfolio summary is ready. I can go in there, I can see exactly what's taken place over the last week. I can share that summary. I can then engage with my team, ask questions, and fill in blanks. So it's really enabling me to shortcut a lot of the work that prior to these features rolling out, I would have to be drilling down into several status updates, chasing people down, trying to understand what's going on. And so it's really bringing a lot of those answers to the forefront and making things really easier for us to get the information that's relevant to us in those cases, right? So that's a bit from my perspective. Matthias, I'm going to go to you for a second. I mean, you're implementing a lot of solutions for customers. You're seeing where the bottlenecks are. From what you are seeing and where AI is going, how are some of the ways, or what are you most excited about as far as the new rollouts go when it comes to implementing for customers? How do you think AI will improve or really hinder the work that you're doing today?
Well, first of all, hi. Well, honestly, it's helping a lot right now. Of course, we are in the beta, right? In the beta version of it, but I'm gonna show it during my presentation. But I think it's super interesting how they are taking, the Asana AI and using it to build rules. You can just provide good instructions, maybe to kind of build super complex rules that maybe in the past they weren't like super complex to build. And now if you provide the right instructions, it can make things way easier for you. And maybe rules that you weren't able to find, how to build them, the right way to build them. Now, Asana AI allows you to do that. And yeah, it's super helpful, probably for teams that are not very familiar, with the new custom rule builder in Asana. I think that's in my opinion, the best approach right now.
Absolutely. Does anyone want to jump off of that on your experience? What are you most excited about when it comes to being able to roll out and deploy some of these new features to your customers?
Yeah, if I can, Matthias, you're saying it's helping do things that were hard to do. They were simply impossible to do. We're using rules to do stuff that was completely impossible unless you were coding something that would be really hard using custom code. For example, what we're doing right now is we have quotes coming from clients, and the AI would automatically suggest the right consultants within the team based on the type of engagement, the country, the language, the time zone, and potentially soon the availability, that would have been super hard to do using custom code. So it's completely changing the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to point something out here. I'm seeing some comments here in the chat from Ross, just about really honing in on what AI is, and what we're speaking to, because there's so much to be learned and still understood about AI. So I just want to provide some context for everyone here on when we're speaking about AI today and its interface with Asana. I just want to give you a bit of context as to how it works. So what Asana has done is it's created an engine that is embedded into the Asana framework, right? And so whether you are at the task level, the project level, the portfolio level, within the goals module, anywhere that you are, it's pulling context from those different spaces. And so if you have a portfolio with a set of projects within it, it's taking into account all of the activity changes, all of the comments, all of the files that have been shared within that time frame, the dates that have lapsed and gone over the original due date, right? It's taking all that information, contextualizing it, and then giving that to you in a really succinct summary. And then with, the AI chat, we're able to then engage with it and ask questions to fill in blanks, right? And so that's what we're really talking about today when it comes to how can we use it in our day-to-day. And for me, it's bringing a lot of context that would before be buried, or, to Bastian and Matthias's point, things that before, we couldn't do, it's now bringing them to the forefront. So I just wanted to make sure we all have that understanding today.
And I wanted to jump in on that conversation. We spoke about the custom development that would have to be done to achieve some of the successes that Asana is building into the platform. And I want to raise both hands and say, yes, it's going to help me in a tremendous way, because I do write that custom code, right? We do provide that for clients. And it is a lot to not only write, but to maintain. And, not to get too techy, but if we were to build out, a retrieval augmented generation, system for a client, we'd have to understand what the structure is. We talk about portfolios and projects and tasks and comments. We'd have to develop a system for each type of client to pull all of that information in, respect those hierarchies, and then build a chat engine on top. And we'll do a little bit of that today so that we can see during my session how in depth it is. It can be done. And I believe on the conversation last year, there was a comment made about, how fast Asana is moving or not moving. And what I heard that stood out was, if Asana isn't providing it, build around it, right? I really do feel empowered by being able to build around and with Asana through the API. I mean, that's probably the biggest gain that I've received, right? Being able to leverage AI and say, hey, write me a curl command to pull this information from, from the API. In the past, I would have to dig through documentation. Now that information is readily available. So I see opportunities to continue to do the things that we normally do, just a lot faster, a lot faster.
I love that. Thanks for that insight there, Terrence. Kelly, I'm going to jump to you for a second here. And so, as it relates to your customers, how are people receiving these AI advancements? I know for me, a lot of people still don't know about them. They don't know how to use them. And the biggest, hurdle, I think, is what are the use cases? They don't know what they don't know. They don't know what it can do, what it can't do. And so, how are your customers receiving these new advancements? Are they seeing the potential in it? Is there skepticism? Would love to know just what you're seeing and encountering day to day.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, Marquis. I think that if I had to quantify or classify rather, it's a lot of just neutrality. Everyone is so deep in the day-to-day that they don't really have a lot of time to just play within the system. And so that's kind of I serve as a bridge almost, because I'm both helping them in the system to optimize their existing workflow, but then being like, hey, we have new rules that we can be putting together to make this super manual approvals process just run with a click of a button. And so that's, kind of what I'm seeing is a lack of awareness, like you said. But once we implement something, it's a lot of excitement. There's always the initial fear of just oh no, is this going to break? What's going to happen? I don't know how to use this. But when people are feeling those results, that's always like 10 times more powerful than the fear that they had going into it.
Yeah, I love that. And what you said off the top, we're working so much, we don't really have the time to play with it. And there's definitely the need to like go in and play and test things out and really see what it can do and create your own use cases. So that would be like my encouragement to someone who is getting started with it, who's not sure, who sees the little stardust there in the corner. They maybe see the prompts to use AI, but they're not sure, right? Take some time and play with it. And so Kelly, you can expand on this question I'm going to ask, and then anyone else can take it. But how would you encourage a team that's moving from AI experimentation within Asana, and encourage them to move more towards maturity with the tool, maybe where they don't know everything about it, but they feel at least comfortable using it and resorting to it in the day to day. And so, when you answer that question, I'd love to know how can we move from experimentation to maturity? And then how can we overcome some of these hurdles that we might be experiencing?
Yeah, I think there always has to be that experimentation phase. Obviously, I think jumping into implementation can be risky because you haven't had the chance to like do the due diligence required to identify any potential risks. But once you've moved through that and you have a good sense of any kind of implications, really just starting with one piece, in my experience, has been the route to success. It helps with buy-in. It helps to make sure that you have worked through all of the potential scenarios. And so, for example, I'm using this a lot with marketing teams. And so if we're looking holistically at the entire process and identifying maybe this one tricky area that both could use some optimization and could benefit from a little bit of assistance, we would hone in on that first as that key metric. And then once people are experiencing, like I said, the results of that, and then we have the metrics to measure and show the results, then we can really just accelerate and start applying that to the more broad organization.
Mm, it's a great response. Yeah, great best practices there in change management as well. Bastian, what about you? Right, I do does a lot of training around the tool. I'd love to know how you are helping customers not only understand what the use cases are, but start to play with them and then adopt them within their Asana instances.
I think it's very important that your Asana account is clean and properly built before bringing AI into the picture. It's also very important if you already have a list of all the processes you have internally, that's going to make it easier for you to pinpoint exactly which ones can actually welcome AI into the picture. And then you have to test. You have to test a lot. Prompting it's really hard. And everybody used the ChatGPT. It's really hard to find the right prompt. You have to test and test again. And we really encourage people to document everything they learn from prompting. And they need to share within the team some of the hacks and tips and tricks they discovered to be able to have everybody on the same page and all grow together using AI features within Asana. But ideally, anyone using Asana should be able to build a rule, but that means everybody needs to have the same understanding of how it works, the limitations, and how to prompt properly.
I'm going to ask a question off of what you said there, around prompting. Do you suggest that teams, as they're going through different process improvement stages, that they almost have a library or a resource hub for prompts? Or are you suggesting that they build in, prompts into certain rules and then that's used as a guideline to shape how they use AI within the tool moving forward? If you can just dive in a bit deeper there.
Yeah, I think it should be both. You should have a library of prompts to get people started. And then this is what we're doing. We are writing our own 101 prompting guide because we're discovering a lot of edge cases and weird things about the AI that we did not expect. So we start documenting everything and communicating with the team to make sure everybody has the same understanding. The feature we're talking about, it's in beta mode. So we also have a lot of discussion with Asana to understand those little details, and everything will be, I hope, polished when it gets released in, I don't know, a couple of weeks. I don't know exactly. But yeah, document, test and test and test again. And and don't expect the prompt to work right away. You need to make sure that AI explains what it does through comments potentially, and then make sure you stay copied, you stay a collaborator on those tasks to see what the AI is doing. And it's going to take you a couple of days or weeks to have the right prompt because you're going to run into very specific edge cases you did not anticipate at first.
Yeah, and I think that it's really important, even, as you say that, to remember that AI is not, I can say at least in the case of Asana, AI is not a replacement for people, right? Like there's still, that human element. There's still the people that have to check these things. When you receive a prompt, you have to, make sure that the information it's giving you is relevant and correct. And so, yeah, I think that there will always be that human element. And I chuckled a bit earlier because I think we've all seen in the tech space, a lot of these companies are adopting AI, and we're seeing cutbacks, we're seeing layoffs, we're seeing people losing their jobs, and it may not all be related to these AI advancements. That's a whole other conversation. But I'd love to know from your perspective, maybe Matthias, we'll start with you. Um, how do we address some of these concerns? How would you, respond to someone that may be apprehensive to using AI because they feel like it's a replacement, for maybe their role, or they're starting to feel maybe that they're under the microscope because AI is now shining a light on everything that they're doing. So how would you speak to that person and encourage them to more partner with AI than be fearful of it?
Well, first of all, like in my case, I consider the AI just a tool, just some help for us. For those users that think that the AI will steal their job, I'm like, okay, just go in Asana, just test it out, play around with it, and you'll find out that it needs you. It's not like it's totally independent. It needs you. It needs you to be there to check if everything is working, to see if it read, your intentions properly. So I will just say, hey, go in there and test it out, and yeah, just don't be afraid of the AI. It's a great tool. It will help us, but it won't replace us. Like it'll never replace us. I'm completely
Yeah.
sure about that.
Anyone else have any thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Uh,
I
Go
feel
on,
like
Kelly.
there's always a period of resistance whenever there's something new, right? I mean, just if you think about, the 80s and computers, huge. Like, where would we be today if we wouldn't be here, obviously, if we didn't have computers. But there's always this initial fear around it, and kind of a scarcity mindset. But we can't even fathom the jobs that will come out of new technology either. There's so much advancement happening and so many changes, that I think that it's important to question those fears and test the legitimacy of them, and see where that takes us. Because while one thing might be going away, something new is just on the horizon.
Yeah. Bastian, I'll ask you the same thing.
It's actually funny because when we started using AI within Asana, I think it actually brought us together because we see it as a challenge, and we enjoy meeting with each other, finding new ways to use AI and improve AI. And it's going to take from our plate things we did not like to do so we can actually use our time better and just spend time together doing important things. So to us, and just like Asana is saying, it's a teammate within the team. And we have a list of processes, internal processes, and some of those are assigned to AI, some of those are assigned to people. And I think it's just going to be a mix of those. Some processes, they can't be delegated to AI, and some others will be, and it's a good thing, and we can just collaborate together.
Yeah, that's great. Terrence, I'm going to ask you to elaborate on this, but first I'll paint the picture here. From my perspective, AI is that teammate. I know a few of us have said that already, right? And so from my perspective, I'm looking at it and I'm seeing, okay, great. Asana has coined this term we're all very familiar with, work about work, right? And so I see teammates as, or at least AI in Asana, as this teammate that's working behind the scenes, clearing things up, filling in the blanks, and considering a lot of the things that maybe us as humans may be missing. If there's an opportunity to, add a couple of subtasks that maybe we hadn't considered, or, when a form is submitted, to be able to have a response, go back to the submitter and say, hey, you missed this. Make sure you fill that in. That's now saving time for me having to go back and chase that person to find that information. And so, Terrence, what I want you to talk about here is just a brief history of what you've been able to do with Asana before AI rolled out onto the platform. I know when you and I first met years ago, you were integrating, ChatGPT with, N8N and Asana and getting it to do a whole bunch of crazy, incredible, amazing things around marketing and filling in blanks. And so I feel that you've seen AI as a teammate and as a supporter this whole time. Would I be correct in saying that?
Absolutely. Um, Before you can really take advantage of what AI has to offer, you really do have to have a system in place. So, what you're talking about are manual processes, right? So, I've got maybe 3 team members that are responsible for getting a video idea, right? On paper, through the right channels, getting all the marketing material, getting things sent out, actually recording, and then doing post-production, right? So, that process takes a lot of people and a lot of time, but it's effective. And your business is built around how quickly you can do that. It dictates your output. So maybe with that process and 5 teammates, we can do 3 videos a month, 3 high quality videos a month. What AI offers the opportunity for is it serves as a productivity multiplier, right? So you can come into any of those processes within your system and say, I want to do this piece faster, right? We take 2 days to create content from a video that's already created. Um, let's speed that up. Our approval process really just involves me checking to make sure these 6 tasks are done and they have content filled out. So maybe I can automate that piece and leverage AI. In any business, if you have an established system, you should be able to look and find opportunities to incorporate. And that's where I say adapt over adopt. What a lot of companies have done and have been doing, and it's not bad, it's just not the most efficient. They've adopted AI and they've tried to take their process and fit their process into AI. I want ChatGPT to do all of my stuff. So I gave it a big document and it forgets things. Or I had some really good prompts and they released a new version and now my prompts don't work anymore. Well, if you take it outside of ChatGPT, right? And you say an LLM, right? I want Perplexity to come in. I want Claude to come in. I want whatever it may be, right? If you say, I want it to come into that process and streamline that process, your biggest risk is that you go back to the way that you were doing it before, right? And if you look at the individuals to that previous question, those individuals should feel empowered because they have less work and then they can focus on the other things in the organizations that either they want to do or that they were tasked to do that they usually don't have time for. So again, adapt versus adopt, and don't look to put your work into the tool. Find a way for the tool to maximize what you actually do for work. And I think everybody can take advantage if they do that.
So well said. And I should have caught myself. I watched your AI talk, a couple of weeks back, and what I said adopt earlier, I should have definitely said
I dinged you.
adapt.
I dinged you for that.
Thank you for your grace. Yeah, great point though. Adapting versus adopting. I think I see a few people in the chat here resonating with that statement. Um, we're going to back it up just a little bit. We've got some questions here that are coming in. Bastian, this is going to go over to you, but Barbara was wondering, can you give some examples of prompts slash weird things that show up, the edge cases Bastian referred to? So yeah, maybe we can just give some of those prompts that you maybe would use in Asana and maybe shed some more light on what you're referring to.
Yeah, some of the edge cases are related to the context size. When you do a prompt, there's a limited size of the context and the prompt. You can't ask AI within Asana to just read 300 project and give you something. It will read 300 projects. It will then strip it down to some size, and then it will answer. So when you create those AI rules, you have to make sure that you don't ask too much from Asana, because otherwise you're going to end up with a partial answer because it cannot see everything. So it's working really well if it just has to look at the task that triggered the action, potentially look at another document, maybe another project that has a few tasks in it, but you can't at the moment go beyond those use cases because it's getting too big too fast. So that's one of the things we had to learn when building rules using Asana. The other thing, for example, when you prompt, it works better if you give examples of what you expect and things you do not want to see. And this is something you learn by prompting. You have to explain what you want the AI to do, then you have to explain, you have to give examples of what you want as a result, you have to give examples of what you don't want as an answer, and then your prompt hopefully will work. A third example I have is we actually discovered that the AI cannot give random fact. So if you use the AI to give you a random fact every single day, it will most likely give you always the same fact. And because of the context, you can't expect the AI to read itself every day because the context is going to get too big. We wanted to build a daily check-in routine with the team and share like a fun fact every day. It just doesn't work. So this is one of the stuff we had to learn. We couldn't find a way to make it work. So this is an example of some of the edge cases that I mentioned earlier.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Kelly, I'm going to go to you for this one here. Ross had a question about, large language models. They're massive databases of human inputs, but who's verifying that all this large data is actually valid? I love that question, right? If AI for project planning is based on past mistakes, how do we know it's not repeating mistakes? Great question. How can we provide some of those guidelines that Asana implements with AI, and how is it validating, verifying these results? So Kelly, not that we are Asana and we know the answer to these questions, but what would be your recommendation to a user who has these concerns, right? Because it's looking through a lot of information. Bastian just said it. I know when I use, Perplexity and I get into a long thread asking it questions, it might forget things or it might get things wrong and I have to remind it. So like, what would your answer be in this case to Ross and into how to approach this question?
Yeah, I'll touch on just a couple pieces of that. I think that the big thing to keep in mind is what everybody was saying earlier, right? Is that like this is a tool that goes along with what we're doing. So we do need to be auditing and making sure that the first result we see, we are skimming it. We're making sure that it has accuracy. And then almost every AI tool also has usually like a thumbs up, thumbs down to be able to help continue to train that machine learning as well. And so if I'm running a query in Asana and it's just completely off base, I'm going right to that thumbs down and I'm giving that feedback, not just like, hey, this didn't work, but giving meaningful feedback so that we're actually able to train and further refine this technology. But yeah, I think that just like my top line of advice is to make sure that you don't just immediately hit submit and trust that everything is accurate just because it's AI. We still need to have that person double checking at this stage.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, for me, even when I do a summary of the project portfolio every week, I'll post it and I'll say, hey, team, can you just verify this information? And then someone will come back and say, oh, no, that's wrong. Or no, that didn't happen. We're actually waiting on the customer to do this. And so it's really important that we're looking at these results and we're just like going over with not a fine-tooth comb. We want to trust the technology. Otherwise, we're just adding more work to our plate. But I mean, it's important to just look at it and just be partial to what the information that you're receiving and just making sure that you get a second eye on it. Matthias, from your perspective, anything else we should be considering when we're engaging with AI, gathering those results, and how do we know that we can trust what it's giving us? What's your perspective?
Well, again, if it's in Asana, I'll just test it over and over and over and again. And if it's like in any other tool, for example, Perplexity, which you introduced me to that tool, I always go and check the sources, because that's something that Perplexity keeps you. You can go in there and check it. And yeah, just if it's something that the tool has to take action on, I'll just test it and see how it goes. Otherwise, I'll check the source.
Yeah, that's great. Could I go on to this next question here? And so,
Marquis, sorry, Bastian has raised his hand.
Yeah, I did raise my hand. No, that's fine.
sorry, go for
What
it.
what we try to do is to always have a human step after the AI step. For example, we create a lot of content. That content is within Asana as tasks, obviously. When a piece of content is ready in English, we have a drop down to say, please translate to French. That using AI creates a subtasks with the translation assigned to my co-founder for him to proofread the text. So that's the human element in the process. If the translation is wrong, he can do it all over again. But in most cases, it's almost perfect. He just has to fix a few things. We have another example. We use Asana as a CRM. When we have leads coming in, we use AI to identify the industry and the company size. It's not that important if it's wrong. And also, we ask AI to post that information as a comment. So you can always proofread that information and give it a second look to be able to fix anything that just doesn't make a lot of sense. But we always try again to have the human element within the process.
A great tip. Thank you so much for that. And definitely important, yeah, because I think a lot of it can get lost, but making sure that we're looking at the information in the right places, that's central to where everyone is having conversations, I think is really important. I received, sorry, an email from a customer last week, and they asked the question. They said, "Hey, this is a non-Asana related question, but they said, how do we know if we are doing better, if we're doing better than we were before?" Right. And so, for context, we've been working with this customer for a year now, and we are implementing Asana for their team and training, and just doing a lot of different things just to get them stood up in the tool. And so the question was, how do we know if this engagement or the methods that we've introduced have moved us forward, have improved how we work? And so we had to work backwards a little bit, and I provided some metrics and some KPIs that they could maybe start tracking, and some ways that they could even gather information to understand if what they're doing now is better than before. And there's so many different ways that we could answer that today, but I'd love to hear from anyone on the panel right now. How would you suggest to someone considering the tool, considering investing in training in the tool, learning how AI works, what metrics should they be tracking to ensure that, this implementation of AI, the time that they're investing, is going to move their company forward? It's going to make things better for them. It's going to improve productivity. What should we be looking at, and how could we measure that?
So I'd like to jump into that one, Marquis.
Thank you.
Whether you're adopting AI or not, you should have KPIs that are running your business. If you don't, start there. AI isn't going to magically solve that problem for you. So take a look at your existing KPIs. Maybe it's time to market. It could be keeping costs down. It could be engagement, right? Community engagement. So if you have a KPI, we'll use community engagement or growth for one, right? So if the goal is to grow to 10,000 viewers, right? What are you doing now before AI to track towards that growth? And then incorporating AI should tell you whether or not you're doing a better job at achieving that particular key performance indicator. It's that simple, right? Understand what your own numbers are, and then try this new thing, whether it's AI in the future, 10 years from now, it's going to be something else, right? Whatever that is, be able to try, test, and then if it works, you'll see the results through your existing KPIs, but you have to have those in place.
Absolutely. Bastian, I see your hand. Go for
Thank
it.
you. Thank you, teacher. I think you should also take into account the team well-being. Because, for example, if you're making the same revenue, but everybody's happier, less overwhelmed, spending less time on cumbersome tasks, then you're probably better off. So this is something you have to take into account. You probably have to just survey the team, but if anybody has a better idea, I will steal that idea from you.
Yeah, I'll
That's a
jump
great
in.
idea. And
Sorry, Marquis.
go on, Kelly. Go on. It's
I was
okay.
just gonna say, love that answer, Bastian. And I think that if there are any processes that are recurring or like tasks that happen every week on a dedicated process, there are certain metrics within Asana that you can be using to both set your baseline and then be able to track improvement over there. I wouldn't say that all of the time you want to use time to completion or time in a status, but that's kind of a good starting point. If you have a replicable process that is very reliable, you can see what your baseline was and then make sure you mark down the date of any implementation changes so that you can go back and see if there is a correlation. But then you can go back and see, okay, did adding, this software improve or slow us down? And basically just having a metric to be able to point to can also be helpful with those KPIs.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Kelly. Yeah, I was going to add that um, that was one of the suggestions that I made to our customer, right? Like obviously, like Terrence said, you should have KPIs that are tied to your business goals. End of story, right? Like, and I know that when we started engaging with this customer, we asked the question of, what's the business case for this? Why are we doing this? What will success look like? What are your goals? And so that's important that we know that. It's also important that you have established when you're rolling out any new tool, any feature, going to invest any time in training or hiring a consultant to bring your team up to speed, why we are performing that change. Why are we going to take time away and prioritize this initiative? And so in the case of, Asana AI, I mean, how many people on the chat, let me just see here, are in a project manager role? Just throw like a one in the chat if you're in a project manager role and you have to do status updates. One, right? Right. Okay. Follow-up question. How long on average is it taking you to do these status updates weekly? 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes? Let's see if we can get some numbers in there. At least 30 a day, 30 minutes. Keep it coming. What else do we got? 30, 15, 15, 30, right? And so I think this is a case where, yeah, on average, we're taking about 30 minutes a day or, a week, depending on how many projects we're managing to do these status updates, right? So I think one of those use cases could be our team is getting bogged down, having to dig in and chase people down and look at who's available and look at, what the status of this initiative is or this asset or this project, whatever it may be. And people are getting burned out. They're getting stressed, they're having to work long hours. So that could be a really great use case for why we might want to spend time training on smart summaries and smart status updates, right? And so a metric on the other end could be improved operational costs, right? Now it's not taking us as much time to deliver these things. It's not costing us as much. We can get back to other more important things, right? Our team that was maybe dissatisfied before, frustrated or dreaded having to do this every Friday at 3:30 p.m. before their weekend started. Right now, they can get to those things faster, right? So I think it's important to like really hone in on what those cases are and look to the tool or the feature as a way to curb the narrative or change the narrative, right? So not having to chase people down, you're reducing bottlenecks and manual processes. And so what's that doing to your overall efficiency of your team, Bastian?
Just to build on what you said, saving time is important, but I think consistency is also very important. For example, within the team, we've provided everybody with a prompt they can use to generate project status updates so that everybody has exactly the same structure, the same information that we've decided as a group were important. And if down the road we decide that we want a new section in there, we just adapt the prompt and then everybody will use the same prompt. And then we have consistency across the board. And when you're using AI within rules, that can help you have consistency as well. You can use AI to fill in missing fields. You can ask AI to ask someone to provide missing values as well, to really have consistency and make sure that the data is clean, because that's what needed in order to have powerful automation on top of your system.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. Thank you for that. We've got a hand up from Mary. I'm gonna bring Mary in for a second. All right, Mary, I'm going to take you off mute. Feel free to ask your question or share any input here.
Yeah. Hi guys, how are you? I don't know if you can see me as well. I just want to make sure you can hear me okay.
We can hear you, yes.
So I'm the owner of a marketing and advertising agency. It's word of mouth media. I work directly with dentists and orthodontists, and they do a lot of with the 3D digital stuff now, with like 3D scanning and the 3D printing. And now I came from the lab field. I left there and went into marketing. So I've been following AI about a year. I've been out of work. So this past year, I've like dove into as much as I possibly can learn about it, experiment. It's really a matter of playing with it. What I'm wondering with Asana is, do you have to have a third party app to make these automations happen, like Make or something of that nature? Or does Asana have a different kind of interface? Because I'm not on Asana yet, but I'm looking at that as my my project management software. So right now I have Notion, but I'm having it's hard with one person because it's just me. So, but I've been looking at Asana's interface and it's wonderful. But does it need that third party integration to do the automations?
Now let's see who wants to take that. Thanks for the question, Mary.
I'll jump in first. I'll jump in first.
Sure.
In the past, it has required leveraging those third-party tools almost exclusively. I think what we are seeing now is a shift for Asana to make that a first-class citizen, so that you don't have to go outside of the bounds of the system to create what you want. It is still in beta, and as an engineer at heart, right? I always say, don't put your main processes on beta software, but take advantage of the opportunity to learn about what you can do. So you have your third party there. You already have on the roadmap Asana being, kind of leading the field, right? If you look at all its competitors, it is actually leading in that space of incorporating AI, and just make the best decision for your organization, right? I have in the past taken alpha software and said, you know what? I'm going to go and push it forward because it brings that much value to my business, right? So, critical systems, I would say, look for opportunities to leverage, Make, N8N, Zapier, things of that nature, but also develop them in a way that as soon as Asana releases something and can make that first class, you can shift over to that, right? So that's your system, as opposed to putting everything into something else, as we talked about before.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? Quick thoughts into that question?
Yeah, one thing we can't share right now is which plans those features will be available in, at which cost. This is something Asana will probably make public soon. But for now, we can't say if this is going to be available within her specific Asana plan or not.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for that. We've got a couple other questions here, but I want to make sure we have some time to wrap up. Some of them I've redirected to your individual sessions, panelists, so you may get those questions again. But with 2 minutes left here, I've just put a poll up just to share what like your favorite Asana AI feature is. But last thing to our panelists, we'll just go around like quick 20 seconds. If you had one key takeaway or piece of advice for an organization, you're speaking to your ideal customer right now, looking to successfully integrate AI into their workflow management within Asana, what would that piece of advice be?
Can I go first?
Or yeah.
Document your processes right now. Even if you don't have AI, you need to have a list of the processes. Who's the owner? How long does it take? And what are the steps involved? And that's going to make it easier for you to decide which ones you should work on first. And just overall, even without AI, it's a great way to see that this process takes 3 hours. You do that twice a week. It's a 6 hour process. This is where you should spend your time and not improve something that takes 5 minutes a month. So this is a must before doing anything else.
Love that. If it wasn't documented, it didn't happen. Matthias, I'll go to you.
Yeah, no, just to add to what Bastian said, it's not that you need, like, in my opinion, right? What we do, it's not that you need like a super detailed document. Like in our case, for example, we prepare like mappings. We use Miro, for example. So we map step by step the processes, at least high level. And at some point that will let you know, hey, this is where we need to focus. This is where we need to act. This is what we need to fix in order to improve our processes. But yeah, just documenting it, that will be, you said it, Marquis. If it's not documented, it's not there. It didn't happen.
Didn't
So
happen.
yeah.
Exactly. Awesome. Kelly, final thoughts are going to go to you. What's your advice to people looking to implement AI?
I mean, I think the process thing is number one, but I'd say number two is just to approach it with curiosity. I think that just embracing the learning curve and giving it a try and making that space to play in the system, I think will go a long way. I also, kind of regardless of AI, I always encourage folks to nominate somebody to be that like ambassador of, the Asana instance. And so if there's somebody in your organization who's really jazzed about AI, like tap them in as a great resource and the go-to person that can kind of help shepherd the team along the way. But that's it.
Perfect. And Terrence said, be fearless, not reckless. I love it. Thank you so much for that. All right. Well, man, what? I can't believe it's been an hour already. We're an hour into Asanathon 2024. There's lots more for the day. Please do not go away. You can take, we're going to break really quickly for 15 minutes. So quarter after, make sure you're back in this same link. Bastian's going to be taking the stage for his presentation. But I want to thank all of the panelists for being here and for sharing their insights today. I know there's still so much to be learned and gleaned from Asana AI as we start to use a tool, but I just want to thank you for sharing your insights today and your thoughts. And again, always appreciate your time.